California, the state where dreams are made and lately where wallets go to die. For decades, housing here has been absurdly expensive, with million-dollar listings treated like starter homes. But in 2025, the story is shifting. Now, don't expect California to suddenly become cheap. You're not getting a San Francisco loft for the price of a used Honda, but the cracks are real, and in some cities, they're widening fast. That's why today, we're counting down the 15 California cities where home prices are dropping hardest in 2025. Before we dive in, make sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss our deep dives into America's shifting housing market. Stick with us, because the city sitting at number 1 isn't San Francisco or Los Angeles. It's a place you might not expect, a market so luxurious that even millionaires are wondering if they bought too soon. Number 15, San Diego. San Diego has long been California's golden child. Perfect weather, stunning beaches, a strong job market, and a lifestyle so relaxed it makes Los Angeles look like it's running on double espresso shots. But in 2025, even San Diego is starting to feel the pressure. Median home prices are down about 6% year over year, which might not sound catastrophic, but in a market where the typical house still costs close to $900,000, that's a big chunk of change. Homes that used to get snapped up in bidding wars now sit on the market for an average of 32 days, nearly double last year's pace. For a city once considered almost immune to downturns, that's a warning sign. The issue comes down to affordability. Monthly payments here easily top $5,000, even for middle-of-the-road homes. That's a tough pill to swallow, even for professionals with good jobs. And investors who once treated San Diego real estate like a can't-lose bet are backing off. Short-term rental restrictions and cooling rents mean the math doesn't look as good as it did a few years ago. Then there are the hidden costs. Rising insurance premiums, wildfire risks inland, and sea level threats along the coast are adding to the tab. San Diego's lifestyle remains unmatched. You can surf in the morning, hike in the afternoon, and be at a craft brewery by sunset, but the price tag is giving buyers pause. So while San Diego isn't crashing, it's definitely sliding, and that makes it the first city on our list. Number 14, San Jose. San Jose is where Silicon Valley became a global brand. For decades, tech money fueled astronomical home prices, turning modest bungalows into multi-million-dollar investments. But in 2025, even Silicon Valley feels less invincible. The median home price is still above $1.2 million, but values are slipping. Hybrid work and layoffs at big tech firms have thinned demand. Some buyers who once stretched to pay peak prices are now underwater, a scenario unthinkable just 3 years ago. Homes that once sold in days now sit unsold for weeks. Families are rethinking whether $1 million mortgage makes sense, even with strong salaries. The affordability gap is massive. Not every engineer makes Google-level paychecks, and plenty of households who bought in 2021 or 2022 are now struggling under interest rates near 7%. Rental investors have cooled as well. With purchase prices sky high and rent controls limiting increases, returns are unimpressive. The market looks less like a gold mine and more like a gamble. That doesn't mean San Jose is collapsing. The tech ecosystem is still a global powerhouse, and demand won't disappear. But cracks in the market reveal a sobering truth. Even the heart of innovation can't innovate its way out of high interest rates and affordability walls. Number 13, Sacramento. Sacramento has often been called the last affordable California city. During the pandemic, Bay Area workers fleeing sky-high rents flooded in, driving home prices up more than 40% in just a few years. But in 2025, the correction has arrived. Prices are down about 3% year over year, and homes that once sold in 17 days now linger for nearly a month. That's not a crash, but it's a clear cooling. The problem? Local incomes never kept pace with the pandemic boom. With median home prices now over $500,000, many locals feel stretched thin. The out-of-town buyers who fueled the surge aren't coming in droves anymore. Hybrid and return-to-office policies have pulled Bay Area workers back closer to San Francisco, leaving Sacramento with a demand problem. Add in higher interest rates, and suddenly that affordable alternative doesn't look quite as affordable. Environmental risks also loom large. Sacramento faces both flood and wildfire threats, which means insurance is another growing headache. Premiums are climbing, and in some cases, insurers are pulling out altogether. That raises the real real monthly cost of owning a home well above what the list price suggests. Despite these challenges, Sacramento still has strengths. As the state capital, it offers stable government jobs and a slower pace of life that appeals to families. But the city's pandemic glow has faded, and in 2025, it's facing the reality that even the affordable parts of California are struggling. Number 12, Ventura. Ventura looks like a screensaver you never want to close. Sun, surf, and that California cool vibe. But behind the postcard perfect scenery, the housing market is quietly wobbling. Median home prices hover in the mid $800,000, still too steep for most middle-class families. And while Ventura avoided the freefall of San Francisco or Oakland, inventory is climbing. Homes are now sitting 40 to 50 days on the market, compared to less than 3 weeks just a year ago. That may not sound dramatic, but in a city that used to attract frenzied bidding wars, it's a big shift. Wildfire risk adds another layer of stress. Neighborhoods tucked into the hills have seen insurance premiums jump by 20 to 40% in just 2 years, and in some cases, insurers simply refuse new coverage. That leaves buyers stuck with the state fair plan, which offers less protection at higher cost, a terrible combo. Ventura's economy leans heavily on agriculture, tourism, and spillover commuters from LA. Wages don't stretch far enough to justify an $800,000 mortgage, especially with added insurance and tax burdens. Even younger buyers who once saw Ventura as a cheaper coastal option are hesitating, with some choosing to rent instead of buy. The result? A city that looks like paradise on Zillow, but quickly feels like financial quicksand once you factor in all the hidden costs. Ventura isn't collapsing, but the signs of fragility are undeniable, and in 2025, it's teetering on a knife's edge between being a dream destination and a risky investment. Number 11, Long Beach. Long Beach has always been LA's chill younger sibling, the one who shows up to family dinners in flip-flops and insists it's part of the vibe. But in 2025, even laid-back Long Beach can't escape California's housing crunch. The median home price has dropped about 9% year over year, with condos and new developments in the downtown core seeing much steeper cuts, sometimes 15 to 18% below peak levels. For buyers, that sounds great on paper, but many are still hesitating. Why? Because interest rates north of 7% mean monthly payments remain eye-watering. Developers who once rushed to capitalize on demand now face rows of unsold units. Some have resorted to offering incentives. Think free parking spots, HOA discounts, even kitchen upgrades, just to get people through the door. It feels more like a car dealership than a housing market. On the plus side, Long Beach retains a strong cultural pull. The port provides jobs, the art scene is lively, and the weather beats most of the country. The city is also home to California State University Long Beach, which brings a steady student population and adds some stability to the rental market. Still, rental yields are shrinking, and stricter short-term rental regulations have cut into investor confidence. Another challenge is infrastructure. Downtown revitalization has brought new apartments and condos, but some longtime residents feel squeezed by rising costs, while others worry that the market is oversaturated. Buyers see the risk of paying $750,000 for a home that could continue losing value, especially in a city where economic growth is uneven. Long Beach may keep its cool vibe and coastal appeal, but in 2025, it's no longer a safe bet, it's a gamble, and not everyone wants to play. Number 10, Santa Ana. Santa Ana is the quiet middle child of Orange County, less flashy than Newport Beach, less futuristic than Irvine, but no less important. In 2025 though, it's showing cracks in the housing market. Median home prices are down about 5%, which may not sound catastrophic, but the bigger issue is stagnation. Houses that once sold in a week now take a month or more. Sellers, used to fielding multiple offers, are reluctantly lowering prices or offering closing cost assistance. Santa Ana's problem is positioning. It doesn't have the luxury appeal to draw wealthy cash buyers, and it's not quite the bargain that attracts middle-class families priced out elsewhere. Instead, it's stuck in the middle, vulnerable to high interest rates and slowing demand. Affordability is another thorn. With the median price still in the high $700,000, families earning average Orange County wages struggle to qualify. Many first-time buyers are sidelined, and younger residents are choosing to rent longer, which keeps inventory from moving. Investors aren't rushing in either. Santa Ana lacks the rental premiums that make Irvine attractive, and short-term rentals face more scrutiny. The city still has strengths: a vibrant cultural identity, central location, and proximity to OC's job hubs. It also has a strong small business community and Latino heritage that give it unique character. But without a surge of buyers willing to overlook affordability issues, Santa Ana risks deeper declines ahead. In other words, it's not falling off a cliff, but it's definitely rolling downhill and picking up speed. Number 9. Santa Rosa. If Sonoma County is California's wine-soaked paradise, Santa Rosa is its beating heart. Vineyards, rolling hills, and some of the best Pinot Noir you'll ever taste. It's idyllic, but when it comes to housing, 2025 is proving sobering. Citywide, prices are down 1.5%, but in neighborhoods like Roseland and South Santa Rosa, drops hit closer to 7 to 8%. That's significant, especially when you consider that just 2 years ago, buyers were practically fighting over listings. Today, the average time on market is 48 days, a noticeable slowdown from 37 days last year. Wildfire risk is the elephant in the room. After devastating blazes in 2017 and 2020, insurers have grown skittish. Many homeowners now face premiums that doubled or worse, non-renewal notices forcing them onto the costly State Fair plan. Add that to rising mortgage payments, and Santa Rosa suddenly looks less like Napa's charming cousin and more like a financial headache in disguise. Still, the city has undeniable perks: farm-to-table dining, access to San Francisco, and the lifestyle appeal of wine country. But unless you're ready to budget thousands extra every year for insurance and wildfire proofing, buying here feels less like a dream and more like a gamble. Number 8. San Bernardino. San Bernardino often makes headlines for the wrong reasons, but in 2025, it's the housing market that's stealing the spotlight, and not in a good way. Once pitched as an affordable alternative to Los Angeles, the city is now seeing its affordability edge slip away. The median home price sits in the low $400,000, which is cheap compared to LA, but still high for local wages. San Bernardino's economy relies heavily on logistics, warehousing, and service sector jobs, which often don't pay enough to comfortably support a mortgage at today's rates. That mismatch between wages and housing costs is creating pressure. Foreclosure activity here is creeping upward. Some families who stretched their budgets during the pandemic boom are finding it impossible to keep up with rising payments, insurance, and maintenance. And because San Bernardino historically struggles with crime and underfunded infrastructure, investor confidence is shaky. Insurance adds another headache. Being inland doesn't spare it from risk. Wildfire exposure and earthquake concerns keep premiums higher than many buyers expect. When you combine that with an average commute of 45 to 60 minutes into LA for better jobs, the value proposition starts looking thin. San Bernardino has bright spots like access to the mountains, affordable rental options, and steady demand from commuters. But for buyers in 2025, it's a city where caution is the better part of valor. Number 7. Los Angeles. Los Angeles, the city where dreams are made and housing budgets are broken. In 2025, LA's housing market is in one of its most uncertain phases in decades. The median home price hovers around $900,000, and while that's a slight decline from the pandemic peak, it's still wildly unaffordable for the average household. Rents haven't offered much relief either, remaining stubbornly high. Even professionals earning six figures find themselves squeezed, with mortgage payments often exceeding $6,000 a month. What's driving the downturn? A combination of high interest rates, population stagnation, and insurance hurdles. LA's hillside neighborhoods face rising wildfire premiums, while coastal homes struggle with flood risk. Some insurers have pulled out entirely, forcing residents onto limited coverage plans. Add in LA's infamous traffic and infrastructure challenges, and the City of Angels doesn't feel so heavenly for homeowners. Luxury markets are taking the biggest hit. Beverly Hills, Bel Air, and the Hollywood Hills have seen price reductions of 10 to 15%, with some properties languishing for months without offers. Investors once drawn to Airbnb and rental arbitrage are also retreating thanks to stricter short-term rental regulations. Still, LA has gravity. Its entertainment industry, universities, and cultural cachet ensure demand never disappears entirely. But in 2025, it's no longer a guaranteed golden ticket. Buying here means accepting risk, volatility, and the constant fear that your mortgage might outlive your Hollywood dreams. Number 6. Modesto. If Stockton is the poster child for volatility, Modesto is its quieter sibling, just as risky but a little less obvious about it. The median home price in Modesto is around $450,000, making it one of the cheaper markets in California. But affordability is relative. Wages here lag far behind coastal cities, and many buyers commute long distances into the Bay Area for work. With higher gas prices and longer commute times, those costs eat away at the perceived deal Modesto once offered. The market is softening visibly. Prices are down about 4% year over year, and inventory is climbing. Homes that once sold in 2 weeks are now averaging more than 45 days on the market. Some sellers are throwing in incentives, covering closing costs, or even offering rate buydowns to sweeten the deal. Modesto also faces broader economic challenges. Agriculture, its backbone industry, is under stress from droughts and water restrictions. With farms struggling, ripple effects hit local businesses and household incomes. Combine that with rising insurance premiums tied to wildfire risk, and suddenly Modesto doesn't look like the bargain it used to. There's still charm here. The community is tight-knit, the cost of living is lower than most of California, and for families willing to accept the trade-offs, it can be manageable. But as an investment, Modesto is fragile, more likely to wobble than win in 2025. Number 5. Stockton. Stockton has been here before. Back in 2008, it was one of the hardest hit cities in the housing crash, with prices collapsing and foreclosures skyrocketing. Fast forward to 2025, and Stockton is flashing familiar warning signs. Median home prices are down nearly 7% year over year, with some neighborhoods seeing drops of over 30% from peak values. That's not a typo, it's a genuine freefall in certain parts of the city. Homes are piling up on the market, sitting unsold for months. Bidding wars, once the norm, are a distant memory. The core issue is affordability, or lack thereof. Stockton's economy depends heavily on agriculture and spillover from Bay Area commuters. But as remote work opportunities shrink and companies push for office returns, Stockton's commuter appeal has weakened. Add in mortgage rates above 7%, and many households simply can't make the math work. Investors are also retreating. Stockton was once a darling for rental income seekers, but with rent control laws tightening across California, margins have shrunk. At the same time, rising insurance costs, thanks to wildfire, flood, and even earthquake risks, are further dampening enthusiasm. Stockton's history of boom and bust cycles makes it particularly vulnerable. Locals joke that the city's housing market is like a roller coaster. Fun on the way up, stomach churning on the way down. In 2025, unfortunately, it's on the downward slope, and the ride is far from over. Number 4. Bakersfield. Bakersfield has long been California's budget option, the place you'd mention if you wanted to prove that not every city in the state requires a $1 million mortgage. Median home prices here are in the mid $300,000, making it one of the cheapest large housing markets in California. On the surface, it sounds like a dream, but scratch a little deeper and the cracks are visible. Bakersfield's economy leans heavily on agriculture and energy, two sectors prone to volatility. Droughts, shifting water policies, and the state's gradual move away from fossil fuels all weigh on the local job base. Families that stretched their budgets during the pandemic boom are now squeezed by rising interest rates and climbing insurance premiums. Foreclosures have ticked upward, and inventory is sitting longer on the market. Homes that once sold in a matter of weeks now linger for 2 months or more, often with sellers cutting prices or offering concessions. Investors who once saw Bakersfield as a high-yield rental play are also pulling back as rental demand softens and maintenance costs climb. Add in environmental risks, wildfires, poor air quality, and extreme summer heat, and the city feels less like a bargain and more like a gamble. Healthcare infrastructure is another concern. Local hospitals are under pressure, and residents often travel to larger cities for specialized care. At the same time, crime rates remain above state averages, which weighs on neighborhood desirability. Bakersfield's affordability is real, but so are the risks that come with it. For first-time buyers, it may look like a ticket into the California dream, but in 2025, it comes stamped with fine print that's hard to ignore. Number 3. Riverside. Riverside, the heart of the Inland Empire, was once seen as a refuge for Southern Californians fleeing LA's sky-high prices. But in 2025, even Riverside is showing strain. The median home price hovers in the low to mid $500,000, which is cheaper than Los Angeles or Orange County, but still unaffordable for many local households. Riverside's economy depends heavily on logistics, warehouses, and service jobs, industries that don't always pay wages high enough to comfortably support today's mortgages. The pandemic boom saw huge inflows of buyers chasing bigger homes and yards at lower prices. Builders responded with new developments across the Inland Empire, but as demand cools, that new supply is colliding with rising rates, leaving too many homes chasing too few qualified buyers. Homes now sit on the market for over 40 days on average, and price cuts are common. Some sellers even offer incentives like rate buy-downs or covering closing costs. Meanwhile, insurance costs tied to wildfire exposure are rising, adding to monthly expenses. Another challenge is infrastructure. Riverside's schools and hospitals are under pressure from rapid population growth, and traffic congestion has worsened with the expansion of warehouses and distribution hubs. Air quality is also a concern, as smog and pollution from heavy truck traffic have earned the region some of the worst ratings in California. Riverside still benefits from its location, close enough to LA for commuters and with plenty of open space. But in 2025, it's clear the market is wobbling. What was once a safe, affordable fallback is no longer immune to California's housing headwinds. Buyers who thought Riverside was the escape hatch from LA's chaos are realizing that affordability here is more illusion than reality. Number 2, San Francisco. San Francisco has always been the poster child for California's sky-high housing costs. For decades, the city was untouchable. Tech money kept demand relentless, bidding wars were routine, and owning a home here felt like winning the lottery. But in 2025, even the Golden Gate City is feeling the chill. Median home prices have dropped by 12 to 15% year over year, and in some luxury neighborhoods like Pacific Heights or Nob Hill, the declines are even steeper. Condos in Soma, once snapped up by tech workers, are now sitting unsold for months, with some units discounted by 20% or more. Downtown vacancy rates in office towers have also spilled over into housing demand, as fewer people see the need or the allure of living near half-empty skyscrapers. Affordability remains the biggest barrier. Even with falling prices, the median home still costs over $1.1 million. Making monthly payments unattainable for most families at current interest rates. Insurance premiums and HOA fees add yet another layer of pain. For many residents, renting still feels like the only option. San Francisco's other challenges, rising homelessness, visible retail closures, and persistent concerns about crime have also weighed on buyer confidence. Investors who once viewed the city as a bulletproof market are now cautious, rethinking whether the returns justify the risks. Yet San Francisco isn't disappearing. Its cultural influence, tech ecosystem, and iconic beauty ensure it will always have demand. But in 2025, it's no longer the fortress it once was, it's vulnerable. And standing at number 2 on our list of California's most at-risk housing markets. Number 1, Santa Barbara. When most people picture Santa Barbara, they imagine paradise. Red-tiled roofs against a backdrop of mountains, sweeping Pacific Ocean views, and a Mediterranean climate that feels too good to be real. For years, this slice of California's Central Coast has been the ultimate luxury market, attracting celebrities, tech millionaires, and retirees looking for postcard perfection. But in 2025, even paradise is cracking. City-level data shows home prices in Santa Barbara down more than 23% year over year, one of the steepest drops anywhere in California. The broader county still posts small gains, but inside the city, the market is unstable. Ultra-luxury estates that once sparked bidding wars are now sitting on the market, sometimes for months, as wealthy buyers pull back or negotiate steep discounts. Insurance is a major factor. Santa Barbara sits in wildfire-prone hillsides and along a coast vulnerable to flooding. Premiums have spiked by 30 to 50% in recent years, and some insurers have stopped writing new policies altogether. Homeowners are being forced into the state fair plan, which provides limited coverage at painfully high prices. Add those costs to million-dollar mortgages, and even wealthy buyers are starting to sweat. Santa Barbara still offers unmatched beauty, wine country nearby, world-class dining, and a small-town atmosphere just 90 minutes from Los Angeles. But in 2025, the dream comes at a cost that's becoming harder to justify. For the first time in decades, Santa Barbara isn't a guaranteed safe haven. It's the most vulnerable housing market in California and the crown jewel that may be losing some of its shine. And that wraps up our countdown of California's most vulnerable housing markets. Some may rebound, others could struggle for years, but all tell the story of a state in transition. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more clear, data-driven insights on America's housing future.